Hello, I'm Nicholas Briggs, a VA accredited claims agent here at CCK Law, and joining me today is one of our attorneys, Nick Scripter. Today we're going to talk a bit about filing VA claims for sleep apnea, tinnitus, or mental health conditions, in part because there are some big changes potentially coming in 2025 revolving around VA's plan to revamp the ratings for those conditions. And those are primarily going to affect any new claims that are filed as opposed to claims that are already pending. So today we're going to take a quick look at those changes. But before we get started, Nick, could you tell us a bit about what we know about when these changes are going to take effect?
Yeah, so VA has not confirmed an exact date yet. They are expected to go into effect sometime in 2025. When exactly in 2025, we don't know. And again, it might not actually happen, but it is expected sometime this year.
Yeah, as you noted, these changes have been pending for a while. They were originally proposed back in 2022, and the notice and comment period has closed on all of them, but VA could implement them at any time, or it could take more time, either way. So with that in mind, let's jump right into the first condition that we want to talk a bit about, which is the sleep apnea condition. What are the biggest changes coming to ratings for sleep apnea sufferers?
Yeah, so the current rating system for sleep apnea gives a 50% rating for veterans who are service connected for it and use CPAP as treatment. The proposed changes could reduce that rating to just 10% if a CPAP is prescribed and doesn't significantly improve breathing. If a CPAP is used and it does help control symptoms, then it may be as low as a 0% or a non-compensable rating. So it's definitely stricter criteria that might lower overall compensation for sleep apnea claims. Veterans that have existing claims or who are currently service connected may not be affected unless they request a reevaluation. But new claims that are filed after the updated criteria are implemented will be subject to that stricter, lower criteria.
Great, thanks, Nick. Now let's pivot to the next condition, which is tinnitus, which is one of the most common service-connected disabilities amongst disabled veterans. Right now, the standard rating for tinnitus is 10%. What changes do we expect for this rating in particular?
Yeah, so essentially that 10% may disappear. After these changes, veterans will no longer receive a separate rating for tinnitus like they currently do. Instead, symptoms of tinnitus, which is essentially that ringing in your ears, will only serve to increase the rating of another related service connection condition. Generally, that would be hearing loss. But yeah, as opposed to a separate 10% rating for tinnitus, it would just be part of a different service-connected conditions rating.
Okay. And that's a pretty significant change, as we've talked about, because a lot of veterans are service-connected for tinnitus. So finally, we also want to talk about which might be the most major of the changes that we're talking about today, and that's for the mental health rating criteria. It seems like these changes are particularly significant and that they're being pretty much completely overhauled. The current system is largely based off of a subjective assessment of the veteran's social and occupational functioning, with only examples of specific symptoms being given. What changes are being made in terms of the new criteria that VA plans to implement?
So the new system by which they will rate mental health conditions will focus on functional impairment instead of the effects of social or occupational activities. So VA's stated goal is to be more objective. So the new criteria will involve more analysis of specific activities like completing tasks, navigating environments, self-care, etc., as opposed to the more subjective criteria that's currently used. Another big change is that all mental health conditions will get a compensable rating. As it currently stands, it's possible to be service connected with a 0% or a non-compensable rating. Following these changes, they will all have at least a compensable rating. It'll also potentially be easier to get or keep increased ratings of 70 or even 100%. For example, 100% ratings currently require a complete inability to work. That won't necessarily be the case going forward. So as opposed to the sleep apnea and tinnitus changes that may lower overall compensation, this one has the potential to actually increase the overall compensation available for certain veterans.
Great. Yeah, it does seem like that elimination of the total occupational impairment requirement could go a long way in making higher ratings available to veterans. All right. So with all that in mind, we have some general recommendations to make. Again, we don't know exactly when these criteria will be changed and fully implemented. It could be sometime this year. It could take a bit longer. But there are certain ways that you can sort of prepare for these changes in advance. One thing that you can always do is filing your claim as soon as possible, either by filing a complete claim for an increased rating or just notifying VA of your intent to file a claim. As long as you file a complete claim within a year of your intent to file, VA is going to use that intent to file date as the date of your claim. And as long as that date of claim is filed before the change in the regs, your claim will still be eligible for consideration of the original rating criteria. However, if those changes do go into effect and those new ratings are more favorable to you, which is definitely possible in some cases, especially in the case of those mental health ratings, then it might benefit you to file that increased rating claim because you could be entitled to an increase based solely off of how those changes are applied to your current disability picture. Regardless, if you have any questions about these changes or you want a free case evaluation, feel free to check out the resources we've linked in the description. Be sure to like and follow for future updates. Take care.